Welcome to Skip the Queue, a podcast for people working in or working with visitor attractions. I'm your host, Kelly Molson. Each episode, I speak with industry experts from the attractions world. These chats are fun, informative, and hopefully always interesting. In today's episode, I speak with Bala McAlinn, founder of Complete Works. I ask Bala how you teach someone to be a good storyteller, and he shares his tips for improving visitor experience through performance. If you like what you hear, subscribe on all the usual channels by searching Skip the Queue. Thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today. It's lovely to have you on.
You're very welcome, Kelly. Nice to be here.
I am going to ask you a few icebreaker questions because this is how we start every interview. We've met before, though. I don't feel like we need to break the ice, but everyone loves these. So let's go ahead. We're going to talk about storytelling and we're going to talk about visitor experience. I want to know what your favourite story is.
I'm going to go with, I think my favourite story of all time is The Diamond as Big as the Ritz by F. Scott Fitzgerald, which is a short story that he wrote about, it's, I guess, slightly science fiction, but within the real world. And there's a family who for generations live on a mountain, and the mountain is a diamond. But they have to control the flow of diamonds into society, otherwise the price of diamonds would plummet and they wouldn't be as rich. So they're sort of like a secret Bond villain family who live on this diamond mountain and have sort of like servants who speak their own language, and one of the children goes off to college and meets the sort of protagonist of the story and invites him to come to the mountain. But then I won't give away what happens next, but it's bonkers and fascinating and exciting and innovative. And that's maybe.
Great. Sure. I've never read that either. So I'm going to add that to my list. All right. In terms of customer service, what has been your best ever customer service experience?
So I think in recent times, and I'll try and, the one that instantly pops into my mind is a client. So I will share that, but I'll also potentially try and think of another one as well, so it doesn't just seem like I'm doing that. But yeah, so some of the greatest customer experience I've received in recent times is at the McAlinn distillery up in Speyside, which is just second to none. It is, when you talk about sort of a 5-star customer experience, that phrase is used a lot, and people talk about world-class customer, visitor, guest, whichever word you want to use, experiences, and they are truly nailing it sort of across the board in so many different ways. So that their team are fantastic, that they've done a great job of investing in them, making them feel important, supporting them, and you can just tell, because it's so authentically good. All the people you interact with truly want to be there, are truly passionate about McAlinn and its history, and there's so many good stories. I think one of the last times I was up there, I was given a tour by one of the tour guides, and they're in a unique position that not every organization can do this. But when she was giving us the tour, we're in a section that it wasn't a museum, but it had a case that's sort of like a museum case, and there was an old hip flask in there, and she was, it was a lady called Lindsay, and she's, I would imagine, 25, so quite young in the world of whiskey. And then that was her grandfather's hip flask. And she started telling us about how she's like 3rd generation on the estate and all this, and you're just pulled in, and it was just such a powerful, emotive story and such a connection with her. And she's not unique. When you spend time there and meet other people, there's so many people who have a family connection to the place, but it isn't just that. There's so many people who have emigrated from other parts of the world to come and work there and are equally as passionate. And the whiskey is delicious, and their food is sublime. Wow. They do an incredible tasting meal that the chef Pavel has creates, and it certainly doesn't stay the same. It's all local ingredients. A lot of it's come from the Spey on their estate, and you'll have fascinating adaptations of trout and salmon and local beef and things, all paired with wines and whiskies, and it's truly magnificent.
You've sold it. I mean, that if that isn't the power of storytelling, I don't know what is. There's the example that we've all been listening for today. All right, final icebreaker. I want to know, what is your guilty food pleasure?
Burger or Turkish delight. There you go.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, I love Turkish delights. My palate, I guess I've got quite a Victorian palate or something, because I don't like a lot of modern sweets, but like I love Turkish delight. I love marzipan. It was really convenient if there's like a box of chocolates, because most people everybody goes in for certain truffles or different ones, and the Turkish delight or the marzipan one is sort of often left till last. But I'll definitely go for those, or in a box of celebrations, which I don't particularly like. But if I'm going to have one of those, I want the Bounty. I don't want the others.
Why has Bounty got such a bad name? It is such a superior chocolate when it comes to celebrations. I don't understand this. It's delicious.
Coconut. Coconut's delicious. So. Yeah, I like those ones. But yeah, I get my real guilty pleasure is burgers. I had a burger last night. I eat too many burgers. It's just sort of the perfect meal,
It's so compact, all in one.
It's just a big meat sandwich with lots of cheese, lots of pickles, lots of things in it, and yeah, I'm happy with one of those.
Okay, all right, and we're at unpopular opinion time. So what have you got for us?
I suppose my unpopular opinion, I don't really like technology. And I guess a lot of people say that, but I think I genuinely don't. And obviously I'm aware of how much technology has helped the world in so many ways, and we live longer and we can communicate with people who we wouldn't be able to have connections with if we didn't have technology. But yeah, I find it annoying. So I don't like computers. I don't like phones. I keep a paper diary and a paper notebook, which everybody who works with me finds incredibly frustrating, because I can't share. Mm-hmm. I can tell them what I'm doing next Tuesday if they ask, but I can't. They can't sort of see it on a calendar invite. I struggled getting on this. This Zoom call today. I mean, when you asked me to be on this, I said, yeah, but can we do it in person? And
I said, no, that's a real pain in the ass.
I took it as, a huge insult and indication you didn't really want to chat to me. And I was like, yeah, there's a lovely sunny day. We could be strolling through some woodland, having a chat, or doing something, and you could have invited your listeners to come as well. We could have had a picnic.
So this will come. I just needed more time to organise it all. It will happen. Yeah. All right. Okay. Look, we all need technology in our lives, but I know that this is quite stressful for you. So, but thank you. I appreciate that you've given this a go today for me. Do you think, now I want to talk about your background a little bit, because we've talked about this before, and it is super fascinating how you've gone from being a classically trained actor to working with visitor attractions. So tell us about your background. So tell us how you've gone from being a classically trained actor to running complete works.
So I was an actor, not particularly successfully, but successful enough to do it for sort of 5 years and pay the bills. Not Hollywood or Royal Shakespeare Company, which is where I wanted to be. Lots of pantomime and theatre and education, and I did a couple of little bits on TV, which was fun, but nothing significant. But yeah, so I was doing that, enjoying it. So I enjoyed the lifestyle of being an actor and the sort of fun and experience of it. And then just the reality is I met my now wife, and she became more important to me than, the lifestyle of, basically bumming around, not having to work that much, doing some shows, and getting to lie in the morning, which was great fun, in my 20s. But yes, so decided I wanted and needed something with sort of a bit more stability, a bit more, of a stable future progression. So yeah, started looking and thinking about what else I might do. So I decided to become a cartoonist, because that's really stable as well, and the obvious progression from being an actor. So that was fun. That didn't work out. So, but actually, it did give me some really good experience, because I started a greeting cards company. I did this line of, it was called of Mice and Mice, and it was this mouse in like in human situations. But what it did is it sort of taught me about sales and starting a business, because I designed the cards, and had them made, and website and branding and everything. I then sold them on Portobello Market in West London. So I had a stall and sold them there. And they sold. So I was like, great, that works. So then I had to get them in shops, and then so I had to go through the process, which was really good for like confidence building in terms of being, a business person and sales, just having to like book appointments with greeting card, try and convince them to see you, then come in and pitch your portfolio and get them to stock and supply you. And so I did that for like a year or so, until I got 10 London stockists, which for ages I'd really wanted. I was like, 10 London stockists, that's like a landmark. So I got there and did it, and then realized, and I mean, my cards, because they were printed on recyclable material with vegetable ink and recyclable and everything, cost like 50p to make, and I could sell them for £1 to a shop. So I have 10 shops selling me, and I make about £30.
Back to the drawing board.
Going to give me the lifestyle I crave, but but it was a good experience. So then I went back to thinking really about my skill set, and what I'd done as an actor and the training I'd had to be an actor, and started. So I worked freelance for a number of years for a number of companies, and working so we're doing shows again and writing shows, but then working with visitor attractions. So I did projects with the Science Museum and London Zoo, sort of direct writing shows for them, or tweaking the scripts of the Bubble Show and Rocket to Bullet show at Science Museum, and like animal talks at London Zoo, and it was fun, and I enjoyed that, and so started doing more of that, and then started a business doing that, my business, which I started in 2012. And so the original company, which we still do, is training. We thought that the majority of our training work would be, the animal team, upskilling them to deliver a better gorilla talk, or, the workshop team that's in the education team that museums have. So we did that, and we still do some of that, but quite quickly we saw that people would just ask us, oh, actually, can you apply those skills to the front of house team, because you're making the animal team better communicators. We want our front of house teams to be better communicators, and then ultimately we want them to be better communicators to increase commerciality. And that's where our business really took off. For obvious reasons, if we're working to help people make more money, we get more work. So focusing on using the skills of performance, communication, improvisation, stagecraft to in the environments of visitor attractions, to upsell membership, or increase on-site giving, visitor donations, or special exhibitions, is a huge benefit to the organization, and we are skilled and suited to do that. So we started doing that, and then the real unplanned success story of our business is then our staffing agency.
Yeah.
So we started the business as training and consultancy, but then whilst I was working at Kew Gardens, we'd only been going for about, this be I think about 2013, and I was doing communications training for their membership team, and I'd mystery shopped them a few times to sort of see the experience through the eyes of their guests, and they had some membership promoters at the front, and they had like sitting on stools behind a desk, and it said, talk to me about membership. And I was looking at it, and they're like, okay. And if people walked up to them, they would tell them about the membership, but there was no proactivity in it at all. And so I'd put in the report, I was like, it looks like you've got a real opportunity to increase the membership sales there. I presumed they were, because I was mystery shopping, I presumed they were Q staff. They then told me that actually they were from a promotional agency that they used to promote the membership. And I said, well, they don't promote it. There's no proactive sales here. It's just reactive. They sell the membership, and it's testament to the strength of Kew Gardens' offer that without any proactive sales, they still have, like, the results were good. That they were getting a decent return on investment from this company, but there was nothing proactive. So I was like, well, actually, I know loads of actors. Let us have a go, and let's see what we can do. So we trialed a summer of doing it, and increased the sales exponentially, and Q were really happy, and we were really happy, and said, well, great, let us now do that for you. So our staffing agency is actors between roles, predominantly working at visitor attractions and predominantly doing commercial tasks like membership sales or visitor donations. And it's such a great model, and obviously it was my idea, but I didn't really take credit for it. It was sort of like one of these lovely accidental things where we saw it, we tried it, but the model works so well, and we love in the company, myself and my employees, supporting actors, because a bunch of us are ex actors in my company, so we like having that connection and supporting them. And then the actors, we also like that we support actors, and we do it by supporting the arts, which is a lovely little circle of artists supporting the arts in their job to pay the bills. And because we're ex-actors, we've managed to, create an agency that works really well for our actors. We're only as good as our people on the staff of the business, and there are lots of promotional agencies and staffing agencies out there. We're quite niche, and we think we're very good for our people, which makes them very good for us, as we know the trials and tribulations of being a jobbing actor, whether it's London, Edinburgh, wherever. It's a tough job, and you need to pay your rent, and you need flexibility. So we give our staff 100% flexibility, so they aren't committed to a job if they get an audition or acting work. Whereas if they're working in a bar or working somewhere else, regularly they say, oh, I've got an audition tomorrow, and regularly they're told, well, if you don't come tomorrow, you're going to lose your job. So then they either turn up to work because they need that job, but then they're in a bad mood, so they're not going to deliver great experiences or service for whatever they're doing, or they just don't come, or they mysteriously their grandmother gets sick, or something. So we know that's going to happen. So we just absolutely, if you're not working, if you just give us as much notice as you can, but if you're not working, just tell us, which means we have to restaff all the time. Okay. But it means that our staff are happy to be there and then appreciative that we give them that flexibility, and we pay them well. It's a premium product, and rightly so. We don't do any commission, which lots of our clients always ask, lots of other agencies do. When I was an actor, I did loads of sales jobs, telesales and charity fundraising and all sorts, and it was often commission based. And it's your highs and lows. So if it's a sunny day and you're doing charity fundraising or membership at a visitor attraction, which is what I do. I didn't do myself. Then you're going to sell loads, and it's fantastic. But if it's a rainy day, you're not. So, and my sort of experience of seeing people do it in other agencies and businesses when I did it was then on the rainy days, nobody tries, because everybody knows, we're just going to get our per diem or something. We're not going to hit commission. So everybody just sits back because there's no point. Whereas for us, we charge fair, we pay fair, and our team appreciate that. And the attraction can budget accordingly. It's not, in terms of our billing, and as can the staff. And they know I will be able to pay my rent if I do those shifts, or it might be that one might and that one not. And that emotional journey means that they're not, we want them to be happy that they're there with the flexibility. We want them to be happy that they're being paid well, and then we pay them quickly as well, which a lot of agencies don't, because they're freelancers and they're used to being paid 6 weeks, 2 months after putting in an invoice. So we pay our freelancers every other Friday. Used to be every Friday pre-pandemic. We've dropped it to every other Friday since the pandemic, but that's still much better than a lot of companies. It means we are often, in effect, running a bank for our staff, because our clients don't pay us every Friday. We are chasing in invoices 2 months, 3 months, 6 months down the line. So but we want we get the results that we do with our staff because they are happy, well paid, have flexibility, and know they're going to get paid next Friday. And
this is wonderful. I mean, you've gone to have created an organisation, create a business that can deliver so brilliantly for both of the sectors, for both the actors that work for you and the attractions that you work for. That's a huge achievement, something to be immensely proud about. I loved some of the things that you talked about there, because I've had this conversation before. I think it was actually with Carly Strawn, a mutual friend of ours, about visitor experience in attractions and about how it does attract a lot of people from the theatrical world, because you are on show, aren't you? When somebody comes to your attraction, you want that experience to be as best, the best it possibly can be for them. And so essentially you are performing for them to make that happen.
Yeah.
So it's amazing that you can bring people in that have that background to be able to do it. What I find fascinating is that you would never know either. So if I came along to the attraction, if I spoke to the membership people, or I spoke to, the donations people, whoever it is, I wouldn't know that those people didn't work there. You integrate them so seamlessly in that organisation that you would just think that they were there every single day.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And that's what we always tell our clients as well with the staffing offer that we do. We want them in the same uniforms as the rest of the team. We don't want them to look like a promotional team, or this is the special team that does something different. Because for the visitor experience, this is something you see regularly, where obviously in a large organization there's lots of departments, lots of roles and responsibilities. But to the visitor, anyone wearing a badge or a lanyard or a green fleece or whatever it is represents the organisation. The visitor will just go to the most convenient person to ask a question or a query. And you do, sometimes see in an organisation, that isn't, delivering great experiences, that people work in silos and, oh no, but that's not my department. You need to, and speak to someone else, and it's, people hate getting passed around. They just want to be, deal with the person there and get whatever service it is that they need at that time. Yeah, so for our guys, we want them in the uniforms so that they integrate. Also, because it's, we're doing sales and we want to do it in a somewhat sneaky way. Because, and it's not malicious by any means, but it's that experience of, if you're walking down a high street and you clock someone up ahead with a clipboard or an iPad sort of smiling at you and trying to make eye contact,
run.
Can I cross? Am I going to brave this fast moving traffic to get to the other side of the street, or to avoid this person who's going to either to ask me questions on a survey or try and sell me something or get me to sign up something. And that's a sort of natural reaction that we have. So for our teams, we want them integrated, and then we always lead with service. We never come straight in with sales, because it's off-putting, and it can be jarring. People, wherever you are in the attraction, whether it's entrance, exit, or mid-experience, if you're suddenly like interrupted with sales, it can take you aback. So our team are always trained, and we have different processes at different sites, different organizations. But
can we like share an example of this? Because this was one of my questions about what we're talking about, because there's two very distinct trains here of what you do, but they intertwine, don't they? So it's very much about kind of storytelling for sales, but also visitor experience as well. And this is the bit where they kind of cross over. You've got some absolutely incredible case studies on your website about the results that you've delivered. I mean, I've got here increased donations at the National Gallery by between 300 and 400%. Like, that's phenomenal. Yeah. How do you do that? How do you lead with the experience? What do you teach people to do?
Yeah, so that one specifically was all about improving the welcome experience at the National Gallery, which led to those results. So that was a great project. So that started as 2016, 2017, something like that. So originally we won a tender to do a research trial, and the National Gallery was great because often we'll do a project like this and we just get given like a week or a day even, and it's hard to really work everything out in such a short period of time. But so we had 4 months, and the tender was put out to see if you could increase on-site visitor donations with a team who self-funded themselves through increased donations, made additional income on top, and did not affect the visitor experience. The National Gallery, the director, Gabriele, was absolutely resolute that he didn't want suddenly the experience to be altered, and everybody felt that they're being shaken down for cash as they came through one of the entrances. And then in that tender, we won the tender, and then we were given 6 questions to answer over a 4-month period. It'll be who will donate, so where will they donate, what else what other commerciality can you connect with donations, times, et cetera. So we had 4 months, so we had 4 people 7 days a week for 4 months with a tablet literally velcroed to their hand, and we changed the pattern every 2 weeks. So we'd do something for 2 weeks, look at the data, record it, and then tweak it and change it. But yeah, the team would, so we tried different scripts, different asks, different locations, and after every interaction, they'd record on the tablet. We split the visitors into, I think, 6 different sort of broad demographics. So they'd click the sort of type of visitor, whether they donated, if they did donate, the amount, and where they were and what time. And we had something like I can't remember exactly, 140,000 interactions over the period of time. So it was a huge amount of data. And so we had the time and opportunity to get it incredibly slick. And we found that there were really surprising, subtle changes and differences that would have dramatic effect on income. The positioning of boxes, the relationship of the positioning of boxes to where security is, or ticket desks, or experiences, again has dramatic effect. I mean, security in particular, and in a simple, so it was fascinating. So obviously National Gallery is on Trafalgar Square, so absolutely you need security, and you absolutely need that. but the security does affect the visitor experience, because you're coming into an exquisite, arguably the world's greatest collection of art. And, you're getting, going through airport style BP things, having bags searched, which it's necessary, but it's not a pleasant visitor experience to have that. So if that is happening, and then immediately after that, you have a welcome-led donation ask, you'll get some, but you won't get as many as if you don't have that. You can still have that, but simply by distancing it from that, and distancing it can literally be a few meters and a door. So we moved security from inside the entrance to outside the entrance, and the security guards, they're a bit like you can wear a coat, it's all right. we weren't always popular with the things that we did, but yeah, by putting the security in front, outside of the building, but there's both Portico and Sainsbury entrances that they're covered, so you could put the security there. The people are searched. They then walk through the doors, and it's like,
that's the start. Yes,
that's art. So they then disassociate with it. They then walk in, and then they see a friendly, welcoming person who welcomes them to the National Gallery, and they've now forgotten about the bag searching, forgotten that they had to shove their keys back in their bag or whatever it is. They're now in the building. There's an instant sort of release of tension from that, and then they meet a friendly, welcoming person, and their propensity to donate instantly increases.
Wow.
And the training for the team there was relatively straightforward. We had 17 frequently asked questions that, in such a high percentage, can create a great welcome experience. Most people, it's the sunflowers, whistle jacket, where's the cafe, where's the toilet, what time do you close? That sort of level of information can create a brilliant welcome experience for most people. Of course, there's occasionally somebody looking for a very particular, more obscure work of art, and that's different, and the team will then have to go to the very efficient in-house team who has a broader knowledge of the collection. But simply by welcoming people, answering a frequently asked question or two, and then informing people that the National Gallery is a charity, and if you can donate, please do. Donations skyrocketed, and we kept it consistently between 300% to 400% for 3 years. So after the 4-month tender, we then won a longer contract, a 2-year contract to do it. Well, there was an extension up to a year. Then we won a 2-year contract after that to do it. So we kept it for 3 years at that level.
That is phenomenal. That's phenomenal, isn't it? Because now it's not just about the visitor experience, not just about sales training. It's about location. It's about understanding how your guests enter your attraction. There's so much involved in it. That's fascinating.
Absolutely, it's core to what we do and our background. And we predominantly look at 3 things, which are from the world of theatre, and that's storytelling, stagecraft, and improvisation. Storytelling being your communications, the words you're delivering, but not just with your verbally with your mouth, but with your body and your tone of voice. And we want whatever you're communicating, for it to be articulate and for it to not just be heard, but to be understood. So we look at the nuances of that, and little changes of script can have big differences in a donation ask or in a membership pitch. And then we look at stagecraft. And if you're producing a play, of course, you have a tech rehearsal or several tech rehearsals, and you block the play so that everybody knows exactly where they're going to be standing, so that the technical team, the lighting designer, plans it so that they make sure that, if it's a touchy moment in the play or a dramatic point, that the lights are just right and the audience can not only hear the words, but they can see what they're supposed to see. And we look at that in the environments of visitor attractions, looking at where donation boxes are placed, membership asked, are they front and center? Should they be? And if they're, we'll often see them tucked away in dusty corners, and people say, oh, nobody really ever donates. It's like, well, yeah, because so many people don't notice it, or there's nobody interacting with it. So we look at the stagecraft, and then we look at improvisation, because no 2 days are the same in a visitor attraction, and the ability to be able to think and adapt quickly on your feet is an incredibly useful skill. And then matched with that in improvisation, that there's a principle, the yes and principle. And when you're doing a scene, you don't block the scene. You don't simply say no, because if you do, it ends the scene. So if I was doing a scene with you and you walked in and said, oh, hi, I've got a delivery, are you John? If I just say no, the scene ends, where I need to say, yes, I'm John, I've been waiting for my delivery, please give it. You drive, so yes and drives the action forward. And we want that mindset within a visitor attraction as well. We can't always say yes to every request, but we can offer an alternative. We can improvise. So somebody wants this X, if we know they can't have it, if we just say, oh, I want this, no, you can't have it, bad visitor experience. But if I go, oh, wow, it's great you want that, however, I've got Y, and I think you're really going to like this, then we've driven the action forward. So yeah.
Oh, I love this. This is one of my questions actually. And I just going back to what you were talking about with McAlinn right at the beginning, where you talked about Lindsay and her story. Obviously, she has a personal connection to the site. That was her grandfather's hip flask. She could talk about it very emotively. Like, how easy is it to train someone to be a good storyteller?
I mean, everybody, I get, within reason and, physical and cognitive abilities can improve their storytelling, certainly. And in the vast majority of cases, virtually everybody I meet and work with is a good storyteller. They are just often not confident at storytelling, so can't necessarily do it in a public environment. But you guarantee that when they are at home with their buddy or their family member, they've been telling stories for years. In the vast majority of cases, there are, of course, exceptions to every rule. But often it's a fear of presenting or public speaking or interacting with people. There was a study in the Washington Post, it was a year or two ago, of the most common fears in the United States. And the third most common fear was snakes. The second most common fear was heights. And the number one most common fear in the United States of America was public speaking. There will be a correlation with the UK as well there. So I often tell people who aren't confident public speakers that that's pretty much the most normal thing to be, if the most number one common fear. So that's often in terms of delivering a briefing to a team of staff, or delivering a pitch to a board, or conference speaking or something like that. Often lots of people have a reticence to do that, but storytelling in the environments of a visitor attraction is the same. This is public speaking, and having the confidence to approach a family next to a work of art who are looking slightly confused and tell them the history of that takes confidence. So to become a good storyteller, there's lots of tips and tricks. And as when you go to drama school and when you become an actor in the rehearsal room, you learn lots of nuances of body, breath, and voice. And that's great, absolutely. And that takes you to a higher level of technical ability in storytelling. But by far and above, the most important thing is gaining experience, more than the technique. And it's gaining experience so that you become confident. And what I say is, experience leads to confidence, and confidence leads to good practice. however, and it's not about being a confident person. The most confident person in the world, if you give them a task that they're inexperienced at, they may confidently give it a go, but they'll fail at it. So if it's whatever it is, whether it's public speaking, whether it's small interactions with a visitor, or whether it's whatever it is, whatever task it is, you need to build experience, and that takes time. So you just have to apply yourself to the task and repeat it until there's a point that, oh, I've built confidence because of the experience I have. And once I'm confident at the task, then that's when you start adding a bit of vocal technique or body language, more interaction, more humor, because you're now at a confident place where you can play around with it and get to that point of good practice. And then that's fun. That's fun. It takes a while to get there, but being at a place of good practice is joyful. And it's not just storytelling and public speaking. We all do it in our jobs. A new job takes a while. If a new job on a till, you don't know how it works, all the buttons, and you might be learned quite quickly, but you're inexperienced for a while until, I'm confident at it. Now I can run the products through the till whilst having a conversation with the visitor. For a while, I'm having to look at the till and do this, and I can't. Once I'm on the till at the place of good practice, I'm now asking that person how their day is and what did they say. Noticing the kid. Did you see the giraffe? Oh, it's great. He's called Henry. So I'm now adding to the experience, but because I'm at a place of good practice. With storytelling, that place of good practice allows you to adapt and change for your audience. If you're having to think about your content and your technique, you're not fully in the moment and connected to your words. If you've got to a place of good practice where I can deliver this animal talk, I can deliver this membership pitch, I can deliver this whatever it is, almost without, because I've done it so many times, I now don't need to really think about it like a person on the till. I can be live, present in the moment and listen and react. So because I'm not having to think about it, I notice that I start losing the attention of somebody who I'm presenting to. And if I notice that, I can probably get their attention back by changing the pitch of my voice or the volume, or changing or becoming very serious if I'm being jovial, or becoming very jovial if I'm being serious. A juxtaposition or a change brings the attention back. Or if I'm engaged in sales and I'm really confident what I'm delivering, I'll start noticing the bits of the pitch where there's a little flicker in the eye, and I go, okay, they're interested in that benefit, so I'll talk more about that benefit. Because if I'm not live in the moment, I'm just listing benefits and not really noticing what's good for them or not good for them. So to improve storytelling techniques, first and foremost, it's just building experience. And you do it in safe environments, do it with your friends, do it with your family, do it at work, but you have to step out of your comfort zone a bit. You have to push yourself forward to learn, and we can all become better storytellers. I mean, I do it for a job and I have done for a long time, but I certainly am not the best in the world, and I'm certainly not the best that I can be. And I certainly hope that, I may have been doing it for 20 years, but I certainly hope in 20 more years, I will be as much better then as I was from where I am now 20 years ago. It's a constant journey. It's a constant development. And to develop, you need to just push yourself a bit further to the point where I am now a bit inexperienced, and then do it until now I'm confident, and now I've grown and I'm better.
And that's where the magic happens.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you. Absolutely excellent tips today that I'm sure all of our listeners are going to love. Just before we wrap up, I really want to ask you, how would an attraction recognize that they needed to get in touch with you? What's the pain points for them? We've talked a lot about kind of donations side and driving membership. What's that kind of trigger where they would need to think about pulling you guys in?
So our core products are training and staffing. Some organizations, we do one of those things, some we do both. So the training is we come in and deliver storytelling workshops, visitor experience workshops, or sales workshops for the in-house teams to build their confidence, build their experience at those tasks. Or then the staffing is where we simply come in and do it with our own people. Often we do both. I love combining the two on a project where if somebody wants to increase commerciality and wants their team to improve on it, for us to be the best we can be in the workshop, we need to experience it first. So before a training workshop, we'll often come in and do some benchmarking where somebody will get in touch. They say, we want our, whoever it is, this department to sell more memberships. We go, great. Can we come for a week and sell your memberships? Then we'll come, we'll mystery shop it, look at everything, see if we recommend making a few tweaks in the stagecraft. Then we'll put some of our actors in uniforms in position for a week or two and sell the memberships, because then we can say, okay, definitively we know on a Saturday you should be targeting X memberships. On a rainy Tuesday you should be targeting Y, and it's achievable because we've just done it. And whilst we were doing it, we noticed that this little phrase or this benefit in the offer, that was the tipping point for so many people. So then we can, in the training room where we are training their staff, then, and there'll be lots of similar, we'll be using body language, vocal techniques, and gaining their confidence to interact and interact more with visitors. But if we can then put in specific lines, specific little bits of script that this little group of words had a great effect for anyone with kids. Oh, the retired couples mentioned the and then that's really useful for them, because we like scripts. We don't like anybody ever appearing to be delivering a script, because that is like the worst type. It's not the worst type. It's an awful type of visitor experience where, and we've all experienced, where you talk to someone and they're just saying something that they've been told to say, and they've said it 1,000 times today. And I use the analogy often of a good actor and a bad actor. We've all seen both probably, and the bad actor is often appears to be not proficient at their work because they're not in the moment, they're not connected to it, because they're thinking about the words they're saying next, or thinking about the action in the performance that's about to happen. So suddenly the tone of voice goes a little monotone, their eyes may come up because I'm not actually thinking about these words, I'm thinking that I need to go open that door because there's another character coming, and you see them come out. Whereas the actor who is the good actor can be delivering Shakespeare, 500-year-old words that have been said millions of times, but we've hopefully all seen Shakespeare where it genuinely appears like these words have been said for the first time, and it's emotive and beautiful and powerful. And we know they're not, but it's because the actor's living and breathing that character. They're fully in the moment. Whereas we want that in a visitor attraction. We want there will be a most likely route to commerciality, whether it's an exhibition ticket, a membership, sale, a visitor donation. If it's and then that will change for different audience groups. But okay, you see the family, most likely benefits that appeal to them. You see, the overseas visitor, most likely script that appeals to them. So we want the team to know those, have learnt them. We don't want to turn a team into robots saying things, but we want them to be at that point of good practice where they're live in the moment, interacting, having fun. But then there's the moment, and suddenly they say something scripted like, you must come to the Botanic Gardens in the fall. It's my favorite time of year. And with the membership, you can come back then too. So it's just suddenly like a scripted line. It doesn't seem like it's scripted, but actually they've said it a lot. But because they've said it so many times and they've seen the benefit that, mention autumn or mention snowfall at Christmas. say something emotive that puts the person that you use storytelling to put the person you're selling to in the story. You must come back in February. It's orchid season, and you can walk through the glass houses and see these flowers in bloom, and suddenly that person, because you've said you must come back and you're using descriptive language, sees themselves walking through orchids in February, and suddenly their propensity to buy a membership goes up because it's not February and they want to come back, and they can take the price of their ticket off the membership. So, but it's to absolutely improvise every single time for the visitor in front of you is a difficult task. Orchids, that's probably going to work at Kew Gardens because it's a great thing. Jousting, that's going to work at Historic Environment Scotland. It was jousting weekend last weekend. So we've been telling people about that. That was at Linlithgow Castle, but we're telling people about it at Stirling Castle and Edinburgh Castle because they're there. Buy the membership, you can go see the jousting. Imagine being there and seeing.
Wow.
And suddenly you put someone in a story, and then they want to, their propensity to buy whatever the product is.
Oh, you're good. You're good. I want to go jousting. I want to walk through the orchids. I want to be there in fall. Well, that's the story, isn't it? That's the power of the story.
Excellent.
Amazing. All right. We're coming to the end of the podcast. I always ask our guests to recommend a book that they love to our listeners. Something, it might be something professional, it might be something personal. What have you got for us today?
Cool. Okay, I've got a couple with an admission as well, which is a sad truth about myself. Who I used to be an avid reader and used to read lots of books, and I started my business 10 years ago and had 2 more children during that time as well. And for, I guess, the past sort of 8 years or so, I've become somebody who starts books and then never finishes them because, and I never, and, George, one of the key guys I work with, George McLean, always says, if you talk about tiredness, it becomes a competition. Oh, I'm really tired today. Oh yeah, I'm really tired. Oh yeah, my kid woke me up at 5 a.m. Well, yeah, my kid was up at 2 a.m. And it's just this. And the more you talk about tiredness, the more tired you become. But the reality is, running a business, having kids, I've been exhausted for the last decade. Try and read a book and just fall asleep. However, I do occasionally manage one. So there was a great book I read recently and actually did manage to finish, called Get in Trouble by Kelly Link, which is they're short stories. I mean, maybe they're novelettes. They're sort of lengthy. They're relative. They're sort of, I guess, 100-page stories as opposed to full novels, and in a sort of exciting, surreal, sci-fi type environment, which I very much enjoyed. And I've bought a new book this week, which I haven't read, so it could be awful.
Ooh, it could be good. Who knows?
Won't be, and it's more connected to visitor attraction industry. So there's a guy called Nick Gray who had a company called Museum Hack. I met him at a conference, the Blue Loop conference in Liverpool a number of years ago. Great guy. Museum Hack was an awesome. So it still exists, but he's sold it. But yeah, so Museum Hack is an awesome company who does primarily in America tours in museums, but focusing on like sex, death, value. So focusing on the idea everybody really wants to know how much that's worth, and then things like people only have an attention span of a certain amount of time. So, and I mean, a lot of people, I'd imagine, will hate the sound of this, but, it ticks boxes for me, and they get rave reviews. So they'll be delivering the tour in the Met or wherever for a while, and then after half an hour, they'll stop and all do a little bit of yoga because it then reconnects you and your attention span can come back. And they're these super fun companies, super fun tours. Great guy, really interesting. And yes, so I met him there. We linked on. I don't really know, but we linked on LinkedIn and occasionally like each other's posts and things like that. But he's just released a book called The 2 Hour Cocktail Party, which has just come out.
I saw this. I didn't know it was him. This looks great.
So I haven't read it, but I do know quite a lot about it because he's been talking about this for several years. And so he hosts cocktail parties. So he was in New York for a long time. He's now been sort of moving around, and I think he lives in Austin now. But yeah, so he used cocktail parties as ways to meet people. Sometimes for business purposes, but also just to like make new mates in a new town or a city. And so it's a sort of easy to follow manual of how to produce a simple, effective cocktail party. Simple, lovely idea. So I got it this week, but I'm looking forward to reading at least the first few chapters before then I fall asleep and it gets put on.
All right. Well, look, listeners, as ever, you can win these books. So if you go over to our Twitter account and you retweet this episode announcement with the words, "I want Bala's book," you could be in with a chance of winning that. I am going to buy this book. And then what we can do is have a competition about who's read the least of it, because they're the tiredest.
Excellent. And then we can have a cocktail party, which is much more fun than
in real life without any technology.
Exactly.
That sounds perfect. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast today, Bala. It's been lovely to talk to you. Thank you for all of the tips that you've shared. We will put all of Bala's contact details in the show note. If you need some sales training or if you need some help with your visitor experience, you will know exactly where to go. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks a lot. Take care.
Thanks for listening to Skip the Queue. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please leave us a 5-star review. It really helps others find us. And remember to follow us on Twitter for your chance to win the books that have been mentioned. Skip the Queue is brought to you by Rubber Cheese, a digital agency that builds remarkable systems and websites for attractions that helps them increase their visitor numbers. You can find show notes and transcriptions from this episode and more over on our website, rubbercheese.com/podcast.